My aunt sabotaged my full ride scholarship by framing me for plagiarism, installed a keylogger on my laptop, tried to plant substances in my locker, and hired someone to fake kidnap my sister. So now she's watching me rebuild my life from jail. But your own family will deliberately get in the way and ruin your dreams. When I was little, growing up in the ghetto wasn't so bad. All of my friends were poor too. So for most of my childhood, I thought that's just how everyone lived their life. But then when I got to senior year, and I realized my options were simple: become a substance dealer like my friends, or drop out and start making $15 an hour for the rest of my life. My parents urged me to get a job, but despite this, I didn't choose that option. But I didn't start selling either. Instead, I stayed in school and made sure to maintain a high GPA. I wanted nothing more than to be an engineer, because that way I could make enough money to not only get myself out of the ghetto, but my family too. Sadly, my parents were disappointed. Every time they'd see me studying, they'd shake their heads. My mother would almost start crying, and they'd beg me to go the family route and just get a job. People from our family go nowhere, my mom would say, her voice so confident I knew she believed what she was saying. But I disregarded their advice, and as it turns out, studying really does pay off. Because after 6 hours a day, every single day, I got a full scholarship to the nearby university. I told my parents, eyes beaming with pride as I said it. But instead of cheers, I was met with, "Mommy, just chill at home. Pedro got the hookup at Popeyes. You straight. College don't want us, mi amor. Use what you got and trap a rich man. Secure the bag with a baby for real," is what I heard from my parents all day long. I knew they meant well, but it was exhausting because I just wanted their support. And I almost gave in. Almost. Except I knew in my heart this is what I was meant for, and I wasn't going to let myself down. So I decided to go. This was soon followed by the worst decision of my entire life. I invited my whole family over for dinner that weekend. Things were pretty chaotic at first. I'm pretty sure my parents thought I changed my mind. Meanwhile, my relatives had automatically assumed it was a baby shower and brought hand-me-down prams, a chest milk pump, and toys. But as we sat around the table, I hit them with the most disappointing phrase of all time: "I'm going to college." My entire family turned to my parents with a look of disdain. My dad sighed. My mom started tearing up. The air became thick and heavy, like the funeral of a loved one. I tried to explain that I got a full scholarship, so this wouldn't cost a dime. Plus, in the summer of my first year, I could do an internship and earn $23 an hour. This helped to lighten the mood a bit, like a cool breeze on a summer's day. But my Aunt Rosa doubled down. She said I was an embarrassment, and I had to give up my act. But Aunt Rosa, this is an amazing opportunity. I don't give an F. Your family needs money, not some fancy title. Tears stung my eyes. My family's betrayal hit like a herd of elephants trampling on a newborn baby. I spent the rest of the dinner eating in complete silence. Meanwhile, my aunt blabbered for hours about how I should be ashamed of myself and how my mom should have had me terminated. When everyone had finally finished eating, no one thanked me for the meal. They just left and left me to do all the cleanup. I couldn't stop crying. The only one that seemed to support me was our house cat, who rubbed her face against my leg while purring louder than ever. But a few days later, I got the call. It was my guidance counselor. She told me my scholarship was being revoked and I was being suspended. Apparently, someone had left an anonymous claim with damning evidence that my essay was plagiarized. I completely broke down, but no amount of sadness could hide the anger that I felt. After I hung up the phone, one thought crystallized: who would do this to me? As soon as the question popped into my head, it was answered. Aunt Rosa. She'd been the most vocal against my college plans. She'd had access to my laptop during the family dinner. I'd left it on the kitchen counter when I was serving dessert. The realization made me dizzy with anger and betrayal. I needed proof before accusing anyone. That night, I checked my Google Docs history. Someone had accessed my essay document at 8:43 p.m. on Saturday, right when Aunt Rosa had volunteered to make coffee while everyone else was eating dessert. The timestamp glared at me from the screen, confirming my suspicions but not providing enough evidence to clear my name. Still, I needed more evidence. I remembered my aunt bragging about her computer skills from her receptionist job. I texted my cousin Daniela, Rosa's daughter, asking to borrow her math notes. When she invited me over after school, I almost cried with relief. I spent the entire bus ride rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd act normally while searching for proof. Aunt Rosa wasn't home when I arrived at their apartment the next day. Daniela and I studied for about an hour before she needed to use the bathroom. The moment she left, I slipped into Aunt Rosa's bedroom and spotted her laptop on the nightstand. The room smelled of her signature perfume, the same scent that had filled our apartment during the disastrous dinner. My hands shook as I opened it. No password protection. Typical. I checked her search history: how to plagiarize without getting caught, reporting plagiarism anonymously, and changing essay to avoid detection. She'd even downloaded a copy of my essay. Each discovery felt like another punch to my gut, but also strengthened my resolve to fight back. I took photos of the screen with my phone just as I heard the bathroom door open. I quickly closed the laptop and returned to the living room, heart pounding. Daniela didn't seem to notice anything amiss as we returned to quadratic equations, but inside I was screaming. That night, I couldn't sleep. My college dreams were crumbling, and my own aunt was responsible. I needed a plan. She'd destroyed my future without hesitation. I couldn't just let it go. I stared at the glow-in-the-dark stars on our bedroom ceiling, mind racing through possible solutions. The next morning, I skipped breakfast and headed straight to Ms. Chen's office with the evidence on my phone. She examined the photos carefully, her expression growing more concerned with each swipe. "This is concerning, but not definitive proof," she said. "The school board will need more to reverse their decision." Her sympathetic tone did little to ease my frustration. I left feeling defeated. Then I remembered something. My cousin had mentioned that Aunt Rosa kept a journal. If she'd written anything about sabotaging me, that would be the smoking gun I needed. The challenge would be finding it without getting caught. Getting back into Aunt Rosa's apartment wouldn't be easy. But then luck struck. Daniela texted asking if I could feed their cat while she and her mom attended a wedding that weekend. I agreed immediately, trying to contain my excitement at this perfect opportunity. Saturday morning, I let myself into their apartment with the spare key. After feeding their grumpy cat, I started searching. The journal wasn't in obvious places, not the bedroom nightstand or bookshelf. I was about to give up when I spotted a leather-bound book behind some shoes in her closet. My heart raced as I carefully pulled it out. The entries were mostly complaints about coworkers and gossip. Then I found the the entry from Sunday after our dinner. Alicia thinks she's better than everyone with her college nonsense. Taught her a lesson she won't forget. Found an old essay online, tweaked it to match hers, and sent an anonymous tip to her school. Let's see how smart she feels now. The words were written with such venom that the pen had nearly torn through the paper in places. I took photos of the page, my hands trembling with anger and relief. Then I heard a key in the front door. I shoved the journal back and slipped into the bathroom, pretending I'd just used it when Aunt Rosa walked in. "What are you still doing here?" she asked, eyes narrow. "Daniela asked me to feed Gizmo," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just finished. Why are you back so early?" "Forgot my medication." She watched me grab my backpack, suspicion written across her face. I could feel her eyes burning into my back as I hurried out the door. I spent Sunday compiling evidence, the Google Docs history, the search results on her laptop, and the journal entry. Monday morning, I marched into the principal's office and laid it all out. Principal Vargas looked disturbed. "This is a serious accusation, Alicia." "I know, but I have proof." He examined everything, then called Ms. Chen in. After a lengthy discussion, they agreed to present my case to the scholarship committee. I'd have to wait for their decision. That afternoon, I received a text from Aunt Rosa. "Saw you snooping. You'll regret this." A chill ran down my spine. The battle was just beginning. I immediately deleted the text and tried to calm my nerves. My aunt had officially transformed from annoying family member to actual threat. I needed to be smart about this, but the panic was real. What would she do next? I spent the night tossing and turning, scenarios playing through my head like horror movie trailers. The next morning, my mom noticed the dark circles under my eyes. She didn't say anything, just pushed an extra coffee mug in my direction. I almost told her everything right then, but what if she took Rosa's side? I couldn't risk it. I had to handle this myself. School felt like walking through quicksand. Everyone was talking about my suspension, whispering as I passed. My friend Letty caught up with me between classes. "Girl, what happened? 3 days gone and suddenly everyone's saying you cheated?" I gave her the condensed version. Her eyes got bigger with every sentence. "Your aunt did what? That's some telenovela shit right there. Tell me about it." Now I'm just waiting for the committee to decide my fate. The scholarship committee meeting was scheduled for Friday. 4 days of anxiety ahead. I tried focusing on classwork, but my mind kept drifting to worst-case scenarios. What if they didn't believe me? What if Aunt Rosa did something else to sabotage me? I got my answer Wednesday night when my little sister Sophia ran into our room, eyes wide. "Someone broke into your email. I saw it pop up on your laptop." I sprinted to my desk where I'd left my computer open. Sure enough, my email was open, but I hadn't checked it in hours. Someone had accessed my account remotely. I immediately changed my password and enabled two-factor authentication, heart pounding. Then I checked what had been accessed. They'd opened emails from the scholarship committee and Ms. Chen. Nothing seemed deleted or altered, but the violation felt like a physical blow. I knew exactly who was responsible. "Sophia, did you see anyone touch my computer today?" She shook her head. "No, but Aunt Rosa came by earlier to talk to Mom." "Of course she did." I checked my browser history and found searches for how to access email remotely from when I wasn't home. She must have installed something on my laptop during her visit. I ran a malware scan and sure enough, found keylogging software. The program had been recording everything I typed, including passwords. I stayed up until 3 a.m. cleaning my computer and changing every password I had. By Thursday morning, I felt like a zombie, but at least my digital life was secure again. I sent an email to Ms. Chen with this new information. Her response was immediate. "Come to my office before first period." When I arrived, Principal Vargas was there too. They looked worried. "Alicia, this has escalated beyond academic dishonesty," Ms. Chen said. "We're talking about cybercrime now." Principal Vargas nodded. "We've moved up the scholarship committee meeting to this afternoon. In the meantime, I want you to document everything." I showed them the screenshots I'd already collected. They exchanged glances that made my stomach tighten. "What?" I asked. "Your aunt works at Westlake Medical Center, correct?" Principal Vargas asked. I nodded, confused by the change in topic. "The scholarship you received is partially funded by Westlake," Ms. Chen explained. "There's a possibility she could have connections there that helped her with this scheme." Great. One more thing to worry about. I spent my lunch period hiding in the library, researching keylogging software and trying not to have a complete breakdown. Midway through my research, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Back off or things get worse." I showed the message to Ms. Chen right before the scholarship committee meeting. She added it to my growing file of evidence. The meeting itself was a blur of questions, explanations, and document reviews. 5 stern-faced adults examining every detail of my case while I sat sweating in a too small chair. After an hour, they asked me to wait outside. 20 minutes later, Ms. Chen came out smiling. "They believe you, Alicia. The scholarship is reinstated." Relief flooded through me so intensely I had to sit down again. Phase 1 complete. But I knew Aunt Rosa wouldn't stop here. She'd proven she was willing to go to extreme lengths to sabotage me. I needed to protect myself and my future. When I got home, my parents were waiting. Dad looked uncomfortable. Mom appeared torn. Sophia sat on the couch, clutching Misha the cat like a shield. "We need to talk about Rosa," my dad started. I froze. Had they heard about the scholarship drama? Did they know what she'd done? Mom sighed. "She says you broke into her apartment and stole from her." Of course she'd lie. I told them everything. The plagiarism accusation, the evidence I found, the keylogger, the threatening text. I showed them the screenshots on my phone. Sophia backed me up about the email hacking incident. My parents exchanged looks I couldn't read. Then my dad did something I never expected. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Mom asked. "To talk to my sister." His voice was calm, but something in his tone made Sophia's eyes widen. "Dad, wait," I started, but he was already gone. Mom moved to sit beside me. "You should have told us sooner. I didn't think you'd believe me. You both seemed so disappointed about college." She took my hand, her calloused fingers wrapping around mine. "We were scared, Mihija. No one in our family has gone to college. We don't know how to help you with that world." I leaned against her shoulder, feeling like a little kid again. "I'm scared too, but I really want this." "I know," she whispered. "Your father knows too. That's why he's so angry at Rosa." We waited 2 tense hours before Dad returned. His expression was thunderous. He paced our small living room, muttering in Spanish. "She denied everything," he finally said. "Called you ungrateful and troubled. Said you were jealous of Daniela. That was ridiculous. Daniela and I had always gotten along fine." "What did you tell her?" Mom asked. "That if she comes near our family again, I'll tell everyone about the money she stole from Abuela's funeral fund." My jaw dropped. I had no idea about that. Dad saw my expression expression and shrugged. Rosa has always been complicated, but this, he shook his head. This crosses every line. For the first time in weeks, I felt like my family was actually on my side. But the victory was short-lived, because when morning came, I woke up to chaos. Someone had slashed all 4 tires on my dad's work van overnight. Without transportation, he couldn't get to his construction job across town. The lost day's wages would hurt our family budget badly. There was no proof it was Aunt Rosa, but the timing was suspicious. Dad called a buddy who helped him get discount replacements, but it still cost money we didn't have. I offered my savings from my weekend job, which Dad reluctantly accepted. That night, we had a family meeting around our kitchen table. Mom made cafe con leche while Dad laid out some hard truths. Rosa won't stop, he said. She feels humiliated and she blames you, Alicia. We need to be prepared. We developed a family security plan. New locks on the doors, passwords on all devices. No one goes anywhere alone for a while. Sophia would stay with her friend Carmen after school until someone could pick her up. It felt like we were preparing for war. The weekend passed without incident, making me even more nervous. Monday brought news. I was officially back in good standing at school, and the scholarship committee sent formal confirmation that my funding was secure. I should have been celebrating, but anxiety kept me looking over my shoulder. The other shoe dropped Tuesday afternoon. I was in chemistry lab when the school counselor appeared at the classroom door. The look on her face made my stomach drop. Alicia, you need to come with me. There's been an incident. My mind raced through possibilities as we hurried down the hallway. Was it Sophia? My parents? Had something happened to our apartment? Ms. Chen was waiting in her office with a police officer. My knees nearly gave out. Your sister is fine, Ms. Chen said quickly, reading my expression. Your parents too. Relief lasted only seconds before the officer spoke. Alicia, do you recognize this? He held up a plastic evidence bag containing a silver necklace. I nodded slowly. That looks like my Aunt Rosa's pendant, the one her husband gave her before he left. It was found in your locker today, along with these. He produced another bag containing prescription pill bottles. Those aren't mine. My voice came out too loud in the small office. They're from Westlake Medical Center where your aunt works, the officer continued. The pharmacy reported them stolen yesterday. An anonymous tip led school security to search your locker. I couldn't believe this was happening. This is a setup. My aunt is trying to frame me. The officer's expression remained neutral. You've had problems with your aunt recently? I explained everything while Ms. Chen backed me up with the documentation we'd compiled. The officer took notes, looking less skeptical as our story unfolded. So, you're suggesting your aunt stole medications from her workplace, planted them in your locker, and called in a tip to frame you? When he said it out loud, it sounded crazy, but I nodded. She's trying to ruin my future because she doesn't want me to go to college. That's elaborate. He seemed unconvinced. Officer Martinez, Ms. Chen interjected, given the documented history of harassment, would you consider investigating the source of the anonymous tip? He agreed to look into it but warned me not to leave town. The medication theft was a serious crime. I wasn't technically under arrest, but I was definitely under suspicion. My parents were furious when I called them. Dad wanted to confront Rosa immediately, but Mom convinced him to be strategic. We needed proof that she was behind this. That evening, Daniela texted me, need to talk. Not at my place. It's about Mom. We agreed to meet at the library the next day. I was nervous about trusting her, but Daniela had never been involved in her mother's schemes before. Plus, I was desperate for allies. Daniela was waiting in the reference section when I arrived, looking like she hadn't slept. She pulled me between tall shelves where we wouldn't be overheard. Mom came home with pills yesterday, she whispered. She thought I was at soccer practice, but I forgot my cleats and came back early. She was putting these prescription bottles in her purse. When I asked her about it, she said they were samples for a doctor friend. My heart raced. Did you see what kind they were? Something with an A. Adderall, maybe? I don't know. But I heard her on the phone later saying something about the locker plan working perfectly and how she'll never go to college with a drug charge. Daniela looked miserable. I'm sorry, Alicia. I had no idea she'd go this far. Would you tell that to the police? I asked. Her eyes widened with fear. She's still my mom. I live with her. I can't just, she's trying to send me to jail, Daniela, for something I didn't do. She twisted her hands together. Let me think about it, okay? Maybe there's another way. I left feeling frustrated, but slightly hopeful. If Daniela was willing to help, maybe we could prove my innocence. On the bus home, I got another text from the unknown number. Drug dealers don't get engineering degrees. The following day, Officer Martinez showed up at school again. This time, his expression was less severe. The anonymous tip came from a burner phone, he said, but the caller made a mistake. She called from the hospital where she works first, then used the burner. Same voice, very distinctive accent. Our tech guys matched them. Relief flooded through me. So you know it was my aunt? We're investigating. The hospital is also reviewing security footage from the pharmacy. If she's involved, there will be consequences. He paused. The charges against you are suspended pending investigation. One bullet dodged, but I knew Aunt Rosa wouldn't give up easily. She was facing serious trouble if caught. Theft of prescription medications, filing a false report, framing a minor. She'd be desperate. My suspicions proved correct when Sophia came running home from school the next day, crying hysterically. It took minutes to calm her down enough to explain. A lady tried to pick me up from school, she sobbed. Said Mom was in the hospital and sent her to get me. My blood went cold. What lady? Was it Aunt Rosa? Sophia shook her head. I never saw her before, but I remembered what you guys said about not going with anyone, even if they say they know Mom and Dad. When I refused, she tried to grab my arm, but I ran back inside and told Mrs. Garcia. Mom called the school immediately. They confirmed a woman had tried to pick up Sophia, but fled when the situation attracted attention. The description didn't match Aunt Rosa, but that didn't mean anything. She could have sent someone. That night, we stayed with my mom's friend Yolanda in her apartment across town, just to be safe. I couldn't sleep, thinking about how far Rosa was willing to go. Stealing medications was bad enough, but trying to take Sophia? That crossed into territory I couldn't even comprehend. The next morning brought unexpected news. Daniela called, voice shaking. Mom's been arrested. They came to our apartment this morning. The hospital had her on camera taking the medications. She was crying. They found more pills in our bathroom. I'm staying with my grandmother now. I felt terrible for Daniela, but relieved for my family. Maybe now it was over, but something still bothered me. Daniela, did your mom mention anything about someone trying to pick up Sophia from school? The pause before she answered told me everything. I overheard her talking to someone named Marco. She paid him $50 to scare your family. She never meant for him to actually take Sophia, just to make you all paranoid. My sympathy evaporated. That's not okay, Daniela. Sophia is 12. She was terrified. I know. That's why I called the police last night and told them everything. The threatening texts, the locker setup, everything. Her voice cracked. She's my mom and I love her, but she needs help, Alicia. This isn't normal. After we hung up, I sat on Yolanda's couch processing everything. The nightmare might actually be ending. Officer Martinez confirmed later that Rosa was being charged with multiple offenses, including theft and filing a false report. The police identified Marco through his connection to Rosa's phone records and his previous history of petty crimes for hire. While they initially considered an attempted kidnapping charge, they determined there wasn't sufficient evidence of actual intent to abduct Sophia. Still, it added to the severity of the harassment case against Rosa. We returned home that weekend, exhausted but relieved. Dad installed a security camera at our front door, just in case. Mom made my favorite dinner, ropa vieja with extra olives, as a celebration. I have something to show you, she said after we'd eaten. She disappeared into her bedroom and returned with a small, worn photo album I'd never seen before. Inside were pictures of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown. My older sister, your tia Carmela, Mom explained. She died before you were born. Car accident. She was the first in our family to go to college. I stared at the smiling woman who looked so much like my mother. You never told me about her. Mom's eyes glistened. It hurt too much. Rosa was always jealous of Carmela's success. When you got your scholarship, it brought back memories. She touched the photo gently. Rosa didn't want another family member showing her up. It all made more sense now. The decades-old resentment. The extreme reaction to my college plans. Not that it excused anything Rosa had done. Monday brought another twist. Principal Vargas called me to his office where a woman in a business suit waited. This is Ms. Patel from the Westlake Foundation, he explained. She oversees the scholarship program. My stomach dropped. Was there more trouble? Ms. Patel smiled warmly. Alicia, the foundation board has been briefed on your situation. We're impressed by your resilience in the face of extraordinary obstacles. I blinked, confused. Thank you. We'd like to offer you an enhanced scholarship package. In addition to tuition, we'll cover housing, meals, and a technology stipend. We want to ensure nothing stands between you and your education. I couldn't speak. Principal Vargas beamed like he'd arranged it himself. Maybe he had. Furthermore, Ms. Patel continued, we'd like to offer you a paid internship next summer. Earlier than originally planned, but we believe you're ready. The emotions I'd been suppressing for weeks finally broke through. I cried right there in the principal's office, ugly sobbing that I couldn't control. Ms. Patel waited patiently, handing me tissues. Thank you, I finally managed. This means everything to me. That afternoon, I got one last text from the unknown number. This isn't over. I showed it to Officer Martinez, who added it to the case file. Actually, he said, it is over. Your aunt accepted a plea deal today. She'll serve 6 months and get probation after that, plus mandatory counseling. The judge also issued a restraining order. She can't contact you or your family. The relief was overwhelming. I finally felt like I could breathe again. That evening, I sat with my parents and Sophia in our tiny living room planning for my college future. Dad suggested I live on campus for safety, though I could tell it was hard for him to say. Mom started making lists of things I'd need for my dorm. I'll send you care packages, Sophia promised, with decent coffee, not that dorm stuff. And I'll visit every weekend, I told her. We can still do our Saturday morning cartoon ritual. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry we weren't supportive at first, mija. We were afraid for you. The world can be hard on people like us. I know, Mom, but I'm going to make it. Dad nodded. Yes, you will, and we'll be right behind you. 2 days later, a letter arrived from Daniela. She was moving in with her grandmother permanently and transferring schools. She apologized again for her mother's actions and promised to testify if needed, though with the plea deal, it probably wouldn't be necessary. At the end, she wrote, don't let anyone stop you from becoming an engineer, not even family, especially not family. I pinned her letter on my bulletin board next to my scholarship certificate and Ms. Chen's business card. She'd insisted I take it to college with me as a reminder that there are people who believe in me. The wall was becoming a collage of my journey, the hard parts and the hopeful ones. The weeks leading to graduation passed surprisingly peacefully. Rosa's arrest became old news as prom and finals took center stage. My friends rallied around me once they learned the full story. Even classmates I barely knew offered support. Ms. Chen helped me register for fall classes. I chose Intro to Engineering Design, Calculus Y, Chemistry, and Freshman Composition. Just seeing my name on the university portal made everything feel real in a way it hadn't before. Dad's construction company got a big contract, bringing some financial stability we hadn't experienced in years. Mom reduced her cleaning jobs from 2 to 1, giving her more time at home with Sophia. Our apartment still had peeling paint, and the elevator still broke down regularly, but it felt more like a home than ever. The night before graduation, I found Mom sitting at our kitchen table, looking at Tia Carmela's photos again. She would be proud of you, Mom said softly, just like we are. I sat beside her, finally asking the question that had bothered me for weeks. Why did you let Aunt Rosa talk to me that way at dinner? Why didn't you defend me? Mom's eyes filled with tears. Because I was a coward, Alicia. I've been afraid my whole life. Afraid of not having enough money, afraid of losing our apartment, afraid of hoping for too much. When Rosa spoke, she voiced all my fears. She took my hand, but watching you fight for your dreams taught me something. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. The next morning, I put on my graduation gown and cap. Sophia helped pin the Honor Society cord in place. We took family photos in front of our building, Dad proudly showing off his new smartphone camera skills. As we headed to the ceremony, I spotted an envelope taped to our door. Inside was a graduation card with a check for $500. The signature simply read, TSC, with a small star drawn beside it. Mom gasped when she saw it. Carmela's old roommate from college, she whispered. She must have heard about everything from my Facebook posts. It felt like a sign, a connection to the family college graduate I never knew. I tucked the card carefully into my my purse as we headed out. At the ceremony, I sat with my classmates in alphabetical order, scanning the audience for my family. There they were, Mom, Dad, and Sophia in the fifth row, waving enthusiastically. They'd brought homemade signs with my name and future engineer written in glitter. When Principal Vargas called my name, the applause was thunderous, not just from my family, but from teachers who had supported me and classmates who had witnessed my struggle. As I accepted my diploma, I spotted Ms. Chen giving me a thumbs up from the side of the stage. In that moment, I understood something important. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who believe in you, who fight alongside you, who help you become who you're meant to be. Sometimes that includes relatives. Sometimes it doesn't. I held my diploma high as I walked across the stage, thinking about the journey ahead. College wouldn't be easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. I had overcome my aunt's sabotage, strengthened bonds with my parents, and discovered my own resilience along the way. The future stretched before me, full of possibilities that once seemed impossible for a girl from my neighborhood. As I took my seat again, I noticed a text from an unknown number. Congratulations. Make us proud. No threat this time, just encouragement from someone who chose to remain anonymous. Maybe Daniela, maybe Tia Carmela's friend, maybe someone else entirely who had heard my story. I smiled and turned my phone off, focusing on the ceremony. The past few months had taught me that while people might try to derail your dreams, determination and the right support system make you unstoppable. Aunt Rosa had tried her worst. I was still standing. And in the fall, I would be exactly where I belonged, in a college classroom, building the future I had always imagined. The graduation ceremony flew by in a blur after that. I couldn't stop thinking about that text message as we threw our caps in the air. Part of me wanted to believe it was from someone who genuinely cared. But after everything that happened with Aunt Rosa, I'd developed this paranoid habit of questioning everyone's intentions. Still, I decided to just enjoy the moment and worry about mystery texts later. After the ceremony, we had this small celebration at home. Nothing fancy, just pizza, a supermarket cake that said, "Congrats, graduate," with my name spelled wrong, and a few balloons. But it felt perfect. My parents invited some neighbors and my closest friends. Even Ms. Chen stopped by for a few minutes, bringing me this little engineer's compass as a gift. She told me she kept one on her desk from when she graduated with her counseling degree. "To remind you to stay on course," she said, giving me one of those quick side hugs teachers do to stay professional while still showing they care. The summer passed way faster than I expected. I split my time between working extra shifts at the grocery store to save up money and getting ready for college. Mom went into full preparation mode, scoring deals on dorm stuff from Facebook Marketplace and thrift stores. Dad fixed up this old desk he found by the dumpster, sanding and repainting it so I'd have something decent to study on in my dorm room. My scholarship covered a double room in the freshman dorm, but about 2 weeks before move-in day, I got an email saying I'd been assigned to a single room instead. Apparently, the housing department had reviewed my special circumstances, aka the whole aunt trying to ruin my life situation, and decided I could benefit from extra privacy. I suspected Ms. Chen or Principal Vargas had pulled some strings, but I wasn't about to question this amazing stroke of luck. One evening in early August, Dad came home looking weird, like nervous but excited. He sat us all down at the kitchen table and pulled out an envelope. "I've been saving," he said, sliding it across to me, "for your books and whatever else you need." Inside was $750 in cash. I knew exactly how hard he must have worked for that money, taking extra jobs and probably skipping lunches. "Dad, I can't." "Yes, you can," he interrupted. "This is what parents do. We invest in our children's future." Mom nodded beside him, and I noticed she wasn't arguing about the money like she normally would have. Something had definitely shifted in our family dynamics. About a week before move-in day, I got a letter from the court about Aunt Rosa's case. She'd started serving her sentence, and the restraining order was officially in effect. The letter included all these legal terms about what would happen if she violated it. Reading those words made everything feel final somehow. The battle was over, and I'd won, or so I thought. 3 days before I was supposed to move onto campus, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered it. "Hello, Alicia? It's Daniela." My cousin sounded strange, her voice tight and rushed. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "Mom made bail yesterday. She's supposed to stay with Abuela, but she's not there. I think she might try something." My stomach dropped. "Did you tell the police?" "Yes. They said they'll keep an eye out, but..." She trailed off. "Just be careful, okay? She's been talking crazy. She blames you for everything." I thanked her and hung up, then immediately told my parents. Dad called Officer Martinez while Mom started checking all the locks. We decided I'd stay home the next day, instead of going to my final shift at the grocery store. Better safe than sorry. That night, none of us slept well. Every little noise had me jumping out of bed. Around 3 a.m., I heard a scratching sound at my window, and nearly had a heart attack before realizing it was just the tree branch that always scraped against the glass when it was windy. And when morning came, my phone rang again. Officer Martinez this time. "Good news," he said. "Your aunt has been located and taken back into custody. She violated her bail conditions by leaving her mother's house, so she'll be held until her official sentencing." The relief was so intense I had to sit down. One more crisis averted. Move-in day finally arrived. We piled all my stuff into my dad's work van, now sporting 4 functional tires, and headed to campus. The dorms were chaos, with families lugging mini fridges and plastic storage bins up narrow stairwells. My single room was tiny but perfect. A bed, desk, dresser, and just enough floor space to turn around in. The window overlooked a courtyard with some trees, way nicer than the view of the alley I had at home. Dad insisted on assembling my desk while Mom made my bed with the new sheets we'd bought. Sophia explored every inch of the room, opening and closing drawers like she was memorizing where everything went. "You'll visit, right?" she asked for probably the 20th time. "Every weekend," I promised. "And you can call me anytime." When everything was set up, we stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. This was the goodbye moment we'd all been dreading. Mom's eyes were already getting watery. "We should let you get settled," Dad said, clearly struggling to keep his voice steady. "Meet your neighbors and all that." I nodded, suddenly feeling like I might cry too. "Thanks for everything. Really." Mom pulled me into a tight hug. "You call us tonight, yes? And tomorrow, and the next day." "I will, Mom." Dad hugged me next, patting my back awkwardly like he always did when emotions got too intense. Sophia flung her arms around my waist. "Don't forget about me when you get all smart and stuff," she whispered. "Never," I told her. After they left, I sat on my new bed and looked around at my new space. For the first time in my life, I had a room all to myself. No sister to share with, no parents on the other side of a thin wall. The silence felt strange but kind of amazing too. My orientation group met that evening. We had this dorky icebreaker session led by an over-enthusiastic senior who made us play name games and share fun facts about ourselves. My group had about 15 other freshmen, most looking as uncomfortable as I felt. But I hit it off with my orientation buddy, a girl named Jasmine who was also studying engineering. First-gen college student? She asked as we walked to the dining hall together. How'd you know? She laughed. The deer in headlights look. Same as me. My parents think engineering is fixing cars and keep telling people I'm becoming a mechanic. It felt good to connect with someone who understood my background. We exchanged numbers and promised to meet up for breakfast before our first classes on Monday. The weekend flew by in a blur of orientation sessions, campus tours, and awkward social events. I called home each night like I promised, giving Sophia detailed descriptions of everything so she could picture it. Sunday evening, I finally had some alone time to organize my class materials and mentally prepare for tomorrow. My first class was Calculus 1 at 8:30 a.m. I set 3 alarms on my phone, terrified of oversleeping. Then I laid out my clothes and packed my backpack with everything I might possibly need: textbook, notebook, calculator, extra pens, snacks, water bottle, campus map, student ID, and even a mini first aid kit. Mom's idea. That night, I could barely sleep. This was it. What I'd fought so hard for. What if I wasn't smart enough? What if everyone else was better prepared? What if Aunt Rosa was right and people like me didn't belong in college? I must have fallen asleep eventually because my alarm shocked me awake at 6:45 a.m. I got ready with shaky hands, triple-checking that I had everything. The dining hall was nearly empty when I arrived. Just a few other nervous-looking freshmen and some athletes back from morning practice. Jasmine showed up around 7:30, looking as anxious as I felt. Ready to have our minds blown? She asked, piling eggs onto her plate. More like ready to have a panic attack, I admitted. We walked to the math building together, finding seats near the front of the lecture hall. Other students trickled in, most looking half asleep. The professor arrived exactly at 8:30, a middle-aged woman with glasses and a no-nonsense expression. Welcome to Calculus Y, she began, launching immediately into her expectations for the course. I took frantic notes, trying to absorb everything. The material didn't seem too difficult. I'd covered some of it in AP Calc in high school, but the pace was definitely faster. By the end of the 50-minute lecture, my hand was cramping from writing so much. That wasn't so bad, Jasmine whispered as we gathered our things. I nodded, feeling a small surge of confidence. Maybe I could do this after all. My other classes went similarly. Chemistry intimidated me a bit with all the lab equipment, but the professor seemed cool, cracking jokes about explosive reactions gone wrong. Freshman composition looked manageable. I'd always been decent at writing, but the class I was most excited for was Introduction to Engineering Design. The engineering building was newer than the others, with modern furniture and display cases showing off student projects. Our classroom had these workbenches instead of regular desks, and the walls were covered with blueprints and technical drawings. I felt a little thrill walking in. This was exactly where I was meant to be. Professor Ramsey was this energetic guy in his 40s who started class by asking each of us why we wanted to become engineers. When my turn came, I hesitated, then decided to be honest. I want to design solar solutions for low-income neighborhoods like mine, I said. Places where electricity bills are a major burden on families. He nodded approvingly. Practical applications with social impact. Excellent motivation. By the end of my first day, I was exhausted but exhilarated. I called my parents from a bench outside the library, trying to explain everything at once. Dad sounded proud when I told him about my engineering professor's response. Mom kept asking if I'd eaten enough. Sophia wanted to know if college kids still had recess. They don't, unfortunately. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm. Classes during the day, study sessions in the evening, occasional pizza nights with Jasmine and some other engineering students. The workload was intense but manageable if I stayed organized. I visited home every weekend like I promised, bringing my laundry, of course, and stories about college life that made Sophia's eyes go wide. About a month into the semester, Ms. Chen emailed to check how I was doing. I sent her a long update about my classes and new friends. She responded with encouragement and reminded me about the summer internship with Westlake Foundation. It's not too early to start preparing, she wrote. Let me know if you need help with your application materials. That weekend at home, we got unexpected news. Dad had been promoted to crew supervisor at his construction company. The raise wasn't huge, but it meant more stable hours and benefits, including partial tuition reimbursement if he wanted to take classes himself. Mom showed me brochures for GED preparation courses she'd picked up. Your father and I have been talking, she said quietly while Sophia was watching TV. Maybe it's time we do some learning too. I hugged her so tight she laughed and patted my back. Careful, mija. I need those ribs. The semester continued, with midterms bringing the expected stress and late nights. I was maintaining solid B's in most classes, with an A- in engineering design that I was particularly proud of. Professor Ramsey had praised my first project design, a simple solar water heater that could be built with inexpensive materials. In late November, as everyone was preparing for finals, I got an official letter from the court. Aunt Rosa had received her full sentence, 8 months with mandatory counseling, followed by 3 years probation. The restraining order would remain in effect for 5 years. Reading the letter, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness for Daniela, and this weird sense of closure. I hadn't heard from my cousin in a while, so I texted her that evening. She responded right away. Things are better with Abuela, she wrote, starting at new school next semester. Mom calls from jail sometimes, but I don't always answer. I told her I was sorry things had gotten so messed up. Her response surprised me. Not your fault. Mom needs help. Maybe she'll finally get it. Anyway, I'm applying to colleges next year. Can I ask you questions when it's time? I immediately said yes. The idea of helping Daniela navigate the process I'd struggled through felt right somehow. Full circle. Finals week was brutal. I practically lived in the library, surviving on vending machine coffee and granola bars. Calculus nearly killed me, but chemistry went surprisingly well. For my engineering design final project, I expanded on my solar heater concept, creating detailed blueprints and a materials list that would work within a tight budget. When Professor Ramsey handed back our graded projects, he stopped at my desk. Excellent work, Alicia. Practical, affordable, efficient. Have you considered applying for the Westlake summer internship? This kind of thinking is exactly what they're looking for. I smiled, thinking about how far I'd come from that devastating day in Ms. Chen's office when I thought everything was lost. Actually, I already have an internship lined up with them. He raised his eyebrows, impressed. Well deserved. Stop by my office before break. I have some reference materials you might find useful. The day before winter break, I packed up my dorm room, taking only what I needed for the month-long vacation. As I was leaving, my RA handed me an envelope that had been delivered to the front desk. Inside was a Christmas card with a gift card to the campus bookstore. The message simply read, "For next semester's books, proud of you, your family." The handwriting wasn't my parents' or Sophia's. It looked like Tia Carmela's friend's writing from the graduation card. Someone was watching out for me, creating a connection to the past while supporting my future. That night, back in my childhood bedroom, I lay awake listening to Sophia's soft breathing from the bed next to mine. My first semester of college was officially complete. Despite everything Aunt Rosa had done to stop me, despite the doubts and fears, I'd made it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. "Survived semester 1. Engineering world, here we come." I smiled in the darkness, typing back, "Nothing's stopping us now." And nothing would. Not family drama, not financial struggles, not self-doubt. I'd fought too hard for this opportunity to let anything stand in my way. The future I dreamed about was becoming real, one day at a time. And the best part? I didn't have to leave my family behind to achieve it. They were growing and changing right alongside me. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the solar projects I wanted to design someday. Maybe I'd start right here in my own neighborhood. That would be the ultimate victory, bringing light to the very place where people had tried to keep me in darkness.